Hello, this is Knight411, and today I'm going to be showing off a Realmshifter Corvus raid build. Now, this I'm going to be running at a pretty low Agony level, but what makes this raid build cool is that it can be used at pretty much any Agony level. If you don't have any Agony yet, if you're at low, if you're at medium, or if you're at high, I got this build off of Cosmo, who's been running this, I believe, in the low 30s Agony. Maybe even higher, I'm not entirely sure, but let me tell you about why this build works so well. So the main idea of this build is taking advantage of Realmshifter becoming extremely tanky when you're redlining. So I'm running on the Raider spec here for Berserk 2, and I'm wearing a bunch of relatively tanky gear. Now, if you wanted to run this at a higher Agony and you have the gear for it, you might want to replace this with maybe Fey Raven gear from Risen Morrigan, because that has even higher defense. But I like the accuracy from the Rift Road boots, the immunities from the Fey Hell's Garb, and the Hyperion Cal really is just tanky, and that's why I'm wearing that. For my main hand, I'm using a Celestial Bow with 5 Hands of Prometheus. You can, at a higher Agony level, when you have that Anguished, you're probably going to want to swap that off to a Finesse's Katana, I believe is the weapon a lot of people use, because you can use an Assassin Jewel in that, and it increases the chance of that Assassin Jewel proccing, which is really good for the higher defenses, higher Agony raids. But here at low Agony, a Celestial Bow is going to be the best bet. My offhand is a Beguiled Blade X, which is a really useful weapon that kind of gets overlooked. It provides a boost to faction damage, while also lessening damage that you deal for Dragon, Holy, Dark, and Arcane. So you can't use it with Ultima Strikes, but it is extremely powerful if you're using Earth attacks in my case, but whatever your faction element is. For my accessories, I have the standard immunity combo, the Ring of Anwin, and the Briny Pendant to protect me against pretty much every damage over time effect other than bleed. So we do have to watch out for bleed in this build. I believe there are some items you could swap in for bleed immunity, but I like this build as I have it right now. But this is all very customizable. For my Amity, I just have 40% crit and minus 3% miss. 40% crit's the really important part there. There's a lot of other secondary effects you could have. Earth damage would be the absolute best for me in this case, but unfortunately I don't have that. Looking at the skills, it's a pretty standard skills loadout. So Realm Strikes 2 is our primary damage dealer. Then I got all the normal buffs. Mimic's Mischief, Gate of Gunner we don't normally use, but it's there if we want to. Berserk, Golem's Fortitude, Worm Song. I don't have anything that gives attack up here because I just use an attack tonic. Then two of the more Corvus specific things are Deific Channel and Sharpen 2. Both of those are really good because of Critical Poise. Without Critical Poise, I don't really like using either of them. And then, oh yeah, Earth Affinity. Whenever we're facing a raid that isn't going to have Earth resistance, that's going to give a really big boost, both because it's a faction element and that Beguiled Blade X. If you did were to run this completely without faction element, then a Finesse's Katana is going to be your best bet for the offhand, I believe. Just because that gives some extra crit damage and will help the Assassin Jewel proc. Aside from that, I should mention adornments. It's all pretty basic stuff. Jewels of Creation, Ferocious and Gorgonized in the offhand, and then Linkus Bristles in the boots for a little bit of extra avidity, and they also give crit. Now, I'm going to start off demonstrating this on turn King Linkus. So, what anyone who doesn't play Realmshifter is going to notice is that we have to take a lot of time buffing. And that's kind of just the nature of Realmshifter. It's what we have to do. You can, I mean, especially at 6 Agony, there are glass cannon builds you could run here, but this is pretty much the same order of operations that you'd use if you were to use this build at higher Agony. And that's really what makes it special, is that it's not bad at low Agony. There are builds that might be faster, but it's extremely safe, and you can keep using it for a long time. So I just used Divine Bastion, now I'll use Deific Channel. We're gonna hope that we don't get hit by a bleed thing. Alright, we're good. So Deific Channel's up, now we'll get Sharpen 2 up, and Realm Strikes. So we got Crit Chain boosting our damage nicely, And we're just going to watch out for bleed effects at all times, but keep hitting Linkus and he will go down quick. And it's that easy. So, show off another raid as well. Let's use Rada. Yes, I do need to clean my origin town, if you've noticed. But that's why I'm making this video, because I'm testing out different raid builds, and I want to find one that I like. And so far, this has been the one that I like the most. Now, if you've been paying attention, you might have heard that critical chain from different sources now stacks. I'm going to be making a follow-up video to this that probably uses a pretty similar build, but instead of using the Celestial Weapon and the Beguiled Guitar, I'm going to try using Arisen Shade Blades, so keep an eye out for that. I did mean to use the Berserks before Divine Bastion. That's kind of an easy mistake to make, because if you use them before you Divine Bastion, then you'll be nice and redlined by the time Divine Bastion's up. But because we're using Deific Channel, it's not a big deal anyway. So now, it's just a matter of spam Realm Strikes. And yet again, we'll have another raid dead. Oh, heck yeah. Ornate Beastfell Boots, like that. Let's do one more raid just as another demonstration. We'll do Beguiled Apollyon Y. I summoned this all the way back at Christmas, but this will give me a demonstration of using Gunner, because if we check the Codex, which is a very nice tool to use, we can see that the only thing he'll use that Gunner will care about is Verse, and the way that Verse works, it kind of takes the average of your defense and res, so having Gunner up isn't as big of a deal as if we were going against a raid that had primarily magic attacks. So, Berserk. The one annoying thing with this guy, though, is that he does have Refract, which is kind of the counter to Realmshifter Corvus, because if we get counterattacked, we'll die, and it will break our crit chain as well. But it's just kind of what we have to live with. Unfortunately, Realmshifter is kind of like you have to work on all these moving parts, and things will be very risky. And yeah, there he goes. He uses Refract. Let's use Worms. Yeah, so you can see that Verse. It hurt, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And he's dead. And yeah, that pretty much describes the raid build. So I'm at Ascension level 98. This build should work even at lower Ascension levels. It's just a really dynamic and useful build. It's not as flashy or as impressive as kind of the Heretic or Deity builds usually are, or even the Gilga builds, but it gets the job done. It's kind of a solid workhorse build. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the build overview. Keep an eye out for my other build overviews coming up as I try and find a raid build that I really like. And I'll see you next time.